This unthinkable tragedy has sparked a lot of questions, and we want to continue the conversation now with an aviation expert. Joining us now live to discuss the crash and the investigation is former Air National Guard Director of Safety, Doug Slocum. Doug, thanks so much for being with us tonight. You spent 30 years as a fighter pilot, and you were also a wing commander at Selfridge Air National Guard Base. How do you think this could have possibly happened?
Well, there's always the human link in anything that we're doing nowadays. So there's a lot of great technologies and everything that are available to keep things like this from happening. But at some point, sometime, people can make mistakes. So it's one of those tragic instances where, something had happened, something went wrong with this great system that we have out there that has done a wonderful job of keeping people safe. But we reached a failure point, and it was with tragedy. And here we are now having to find out why it happened and see what we can do to keep it from happening again.
And Doug, it seems like there's been so much devastation this year, and we're just in January still. When was the last time you saw a tragedy of this magnitude, and I should say an aviation tragedy of this magnitude?
Well, I'm a trained safety investigator. I mean, I retired in 2019. I was actually a board president of a fatal fighter jet mishap in 2018. So that's the last direct experience I've had with it. But I mean, the reality is, bad things can happen. Airplanes can break. They could get bent or whatever. But once we cross that threshold into a fatal mishap, that just takes us into an entirely new category. And how we have to approach things. Our ultimate goal, obviously, is to preserve human life. And anytime we lose a life, we need to figure out why it happened. We need to make sure it doesn't happen again.
And after looking at the transcript, did air traffic control take the proper action?
Well, I've seen that on the news, and, air traffic control, in this particular case, it sounds like the helicopter was flying under what we call visual flight rules, or VFR. And of course, the American Airlines was flying under instrument flight rules, being watched the entire time. It's not uncommon that air traffic control will ask an aircraft, "Do you see this other aircraft? If so, avoid it, follow it, whatever it happens to be." And once you, as the pilot, say, "Yes, I see them," they expect you to follow it. So, was there anything procedurally improper with what I personally heard? I would have to say no. At the same time, could they have given more of an emphatic warning that, they had not taken the proper action at that point? Maybe. There are so many things we need to look at to collect the facts. And I think the trouble is we jump to a lot of conclusions based on just a little bit of information. And we really, right now, we need to mourn, help the families out where we can, and certainly support the NTSB as they collect information and get us the whole and complete picture of what happened.
And Doug, I was just going to touch on that. In your previous role, you had to do a lot of navigating the how and the why, but there are lives at stake here, and there is mourning that is happening here. How do you navigate that? How do you try to get to the bottom of those questions while also being sensitive to those families who have lost loved ones?
Well, we always need to be sensitive to human life. That's why we're in the safety business to begin with. We have no higher calling than to take care of people. There are things that we can build into our systems. There are procedures. There are things we can do to raise awareness. There's so many layers of things that we can do to help offset the fact that people still can make mistakes. But the reality is that the only acceptable number of fatalities is 0. So we want to continue to work on that, work on these technologies, and make improvements. Like I said, the NTSB at this point hopefully is going to come out. They're going to give us very clear, actionable, effective recommendations that we can implement as a society that will keep people safe and make sure that this tragedy doesn't happen to any more families ever.
Yeah, a lot of development still underway, a lot of investigation. Thank you, Doug, so much for your time. And our hearts go out to all of those families who are mourning right now.
We certainly do. Thank you. And I appreciate, just focusing on the safety aspect of things. And once again, our hearts go out to the families of what's happened right there. Let's make sure it doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Doug. And stay with CBS Detroit for continuing coverage of the deadly collision. We will bring you the latest information both on air and online at cbsdetroit.com.